This is a fan-generated show. If you'd like to support us, please go to jamieglazov.com. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our new Rumble channel. All your support is greatly appreciated.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm thrilled to announce the release of my new book, Obama's True Legacy: How He Transformed America. There's a reason why Mike Huckabee calls it a ferocious and chilling read. Order it now at Amazon.com or at FrontPageMag.com.
Hello and welcome to the Glazov Gang. I'm Keith Thompson, and I'll be sitting in tonight for Jamie Glazov. I'm an independent journalist from the middle zone of the boomer era, and I wrote a book called Leaving the Left. In that book, I described the turning points in my gradual, some say it took too long, but in any case, my recognition that to be a liberal in the classical or original sense, which stands for freedom of the individual, the dignity of the individual, due process for all, and respect for human potential of individuals, is profoundly different from the left's entry-level view of humans as belonging to various collectives, gender, race, and economic. You know the shtick at this point. And the key turning point for me was the difference between equal opportunity, which is our natural birthright, and equality of outcomes. I knew enough from history to understand that that's where the French Revolution led to the guillotine and the Soviet Union led to the Gulag. I wasn't part of that. So my book told that story. My most recent book departs entirely from politics. It's just out. Steps into science, psychology, culture, and more than a bit of metaphysics. The title of my new book is The UFO Paradox. That's right, UFO, the celestial and symbolic world of unidentified aerial phenomena. Available wherever books are sold, print and audio books alike. People say, how is an investigative journalist, or how did you shift from being an investigative journalist who covered political topics to focusing on something like the UFO phenomena? My response is, I'm an investigative journalist. I follow evidence and I follow interests, and I let them take me where the proof goes. So I've had a long interest in that subject, and if you read the book, I hope you enjoy it. As always, the Glazov Gang is a fan-generated program, stalked and, yes, shadow banned by those whose top priority is conformity of behavior, not diversity of viewpoint. Please subscribe to our YouTube and Rumble channels, and be sure to press instant notifications. Visit Jamie Glazov, that's G at the beginning, Z in the middle, and V on the end, jamieglazov.com. Subscribe to our newsletter, and please consider making a donation to support this unique broadcast. Follow us on Twitter, X, at Jamie Glazov, and follow Director Annie Cyrus at Live Up to Freedom. Well, tonight I'm delighted to have the opportunity to welcome to the Glazov Gang one of the most intellectually formidable, not to mention drop-dead funny, and take no prisoners insightful observers on the current political and cultural scene, Zeek Arkham. Zeek's a police officer by profession. He's become legendary for his timely observations at X Twitter, where he introduces himself as the notorious CWA, cop with attitude. Host of Reasonable Suspicion podcast, Zeek's preferred pronouns are bruh and brother. His favorite hashtags are back the blue and all lives matter. And when it comes to political labels, he calls himself a conservatarian. We'll talk about what that means to him. Zeek Arkham, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate it.
Well, it's great to be here. I've been a fan of yours. I've followed you. You've got, 300,000 or more people checking in on what you say daily. But let's talk about what I always like to talk about when I'm starting with the guest. What brings you to what you do? In particular, when did you first get the idea that policing would be a part of your life?
Well, I joined the police force in 2006. I basically, I always had a respect for law enforcement. I always saw them as heroes. I'm third generation law enforcement. My grandfather was a court officer for the New York State courts. My uncle was a court officer also for the New York State courts. And I guess I kind of just went into the family business. And I went in there, during the whole height of the Sean Bell shooting and everything else like that in New York City. And I said, I want to go in there and I want to see exactly what's happening. I'm going to go in there. I'm going to blow the whole thing up. I'm going to report from the inside. And when I saw what cops do, when I started really interacting with cops, when I started to see them for the human beings that they are, I said, cops are just like you and I. They're regular people. They worry about the same things. They want to go home to their families. They want to spend time with their children. They want to spend time with their wives. They just want to come to work and make a difference where they can. And this whole stigma against cops, where cops are just, we're just doing our jobs. We just, we're stormtroopers for the government. That's not the case. A lot of cops have conservative views. A lot of cops disagree heavily with the upper echelon, with the political outside influence that goes on. So I saw the real sort of underbelly of policing, which is just cops being human beings. So when I started posting on Twitter, I saw a lot of misinformation. I saw a lot of people who their entire all their facts, quote unquote, with policing came from what they watched on TV. I've watched, they watched 15 seasons of Law and Order, and now they're the authorities on policing, the authorities on law and what happens. So I said, you know what? As someone who has actually been in a police locker room, as someone that has actually experienced what cops go through, let me start sharing my story. And it started resonating with people. I started getting follower after follower. I never got into posting online and social media for follows. I've never asked, for people to follow me. I'm not one of these people who, follow me and if you support this and drop me a follow and I'll follow you back. Or, I've never, asked for anyone, hey, follow me, get me to this many followers and, let's see what happens. I've never been that type of person. I've always said I'm organic. I'm real. What you see is what you get. And it resonates with people. So that's basically where I started.
Well, my own orientation to policing is television, okay? And one of my favorite police shows, and I don't know how good it is in terms of accurate, but it has a raw feel to it, and that has been Blue Blood. I've seen probably every season. I know every season and every episode. And I always notice that when I'm watching and the two cops are driving along and just talking about their day, and then a call comes through, they've got to go to work. And I see them tense up. I tense up, and I know that it's about to get real. What's that like for you? Are you first? Are you in a car, or most of the time? Are you on foot some of the time? What's your day look like? And what's it like when you get those calls? You're called to action, and you don't know what you're going to be dealing with.
I do mostly investigative work now, but I've been in a car before where you get that call and you feel that tingle on the back of your neck, in your spine, and you're just like, I got to get there. I've also been in situations where I'm screaming into my radio and I'm calling for help, and seconds feel like minutes. I always tell a story about when I had to fight someone by myself. My partner for that day actually ran. He said this had nothing to do with him, and I couldn't run. I was stuck with this person, and I still say to this day, in my mind, that brawl I had with someone who was actually bigger and stronger than me, in my mind, it was a half hour to an hour brawl, but the whole thing probably took about 3 minutes. But that's how it feels, when you're driving to that call, when you're hearing screaming on the other side of the radio, you're just praying you can get there in time, because the last thing you want to do is have to pick up a cop's wife and pick up their kids, or the last thing you want to do is have to go to a funeral, God forbid. So that's when the adrenaline happens and you get there, and it makes you really just want to go home and hug your kids a little bit more and hug your wife a little bit more. Or you get those calls where it really just tears at your heart. Cops are still human beings, and we still see a lot of things that would traumatize most normal people. And we're seeing it on a regular basis. So you still get those calls where, you go home and you're trying to hold it together, but you can't. There was a young cop in New York City who, unfortunately took his life. And I've been to way too many funerals of cops who have taken their lives. And it's, a lot of the public really doesn't understand that about cops. As law enforcement, whether it's in New York, Chicago, especially in blue cities where we're not supported as much, we see a lot. And then there's no release for it. There's no outlet. You can't go and talk to someone. You can't go and sit down and just, release it. You still have to get home to your family. You still got to be a dad. You still got to be a husband, but you're still carrying this with you. So a lot of people really don't understand the emotional and psychological wear and tear that goes on with law enforcement. So, like I said, I was there just telling my story. I was there really just trying to shine a light on what happens in policing, and a lot of people, it seemed to resonate with it. Also being, as you alluded to earlier, a conservatarian. I grew up in a high crime, poor neighborhood, and I'm the picture perfect person for the Democrats. I had a mom who basically raised us all by herself. My father saw parenting as sort of a part-time optional job, so he wasn't there a whole lot. It was my mom going to PTA meetings. It was my mom buying us clothes for school. It was my mom buying us supplies. It was my mom getting up and going to work every day. My father was unemployed most of my childhood. So, I'm the picture perfect guy for the Democrats to say, hey, listen, there's a system out there and it's against me. And I'm out there saying, no, there might be a system somewhat in place, but I can still prevail over it. I can still climb over it. I can still achieve more. And it resonated with a lot of people. It resonated with a lot of people who were looking for a voice like mine. And, just thank God, here we are. I honestly don't know how many followers I have. I think I'm over 300,000. People followed me, and people, it resonated with people. My grandmother always used to say, tell the truth, whether it fills the room or empties it. And that's what I've been doing on social media since day one.
Sounds like maybe grandma had a major role with helping mom out. I mean, how did you avoid, or how did you make your way through to say you weren't fatherless, but your father, like you say, was on the margins in a way that your mom was right in the middle? You realize that would almost have been a recipe for playing the victim card. I'm just curious. And I don't mean even just in the Black community. As you know, fatherless is now endemic throughout the society. Fathers are portrayed as bumbling morons. Homer Simpson, we know the stereotype. Dagwood Bumstead. I remember growing up seeing that Sunday morning color comic on the funny pages, and Dagwood was asleep on the couch and Blondie was running the house. So it's not racial, but it's particularly the Black community, thanks to the Great Society, which said people who get welfare, and that's not exclusively Blacks, obviously, but people get welfare need to get the men out of the house. Wow, there's a plan. So how did any of that play out for you? How did you come to emphasize a strong sense of masculinity?
Honestly, my mom did not play around. My mom was a very strict disciplinarian. Mama Arkham was, she was on us. She made sure that our grades were, I have two younger brothers. She made sure our grades were up to par. She made sure that we were going to school every day. There was no excuse that was good enough to keep me home. If I said, hey, Ma, I'm not feeling well. Yeah, I'm not feeling well either. Go to school. Hey, Ma, I got a headache. Yeah, I got a headache too. Go to school. But she taught me the value of getting up and going to work every day. Even with my job now, I get up and I go to work every day. I don't just, take time off and just, because I need, and not to knock anybody that takes a lot of time off. Like I said, policing is a rough job. If you need a mental health day, go ahead and take it. But me, I get up and go to work every day just because I also want to teach my daughter to get up and go to work every day. Just like I saw my mom getting up and going to work every day. So, I mean, my mom did not play around at all. Truth be told, though, honestly, I had a friend in high school who was in a gang. There was a gang near where I grew up in Jamaica, Queens, called the Lost Boys. And I made friends with one of the top tier guys in that gang. And, when I was sniffing around and saying, hey, how can I join something like this? He told me flat out, no. He said, this ain't for you. I'm telling you, no, this is not for you. You have a lot more you can do in life. He says, for guys like me, this is it. He goes, but you, no. And, listen, to his credit, he saw something in me. He saw, promise in me. And I mean, I don't know where he is nowadays, but, to this day, I thank him because, my life could have taken a drastic turn if he had said, yeah, come here, come with us. But he saw something in me. So, like I said, I tell my story. I'm not perfect. I didn't grow up, with a rich family. I didn't grow up, with clean streets and a manicure lawn. Everything I give my daughter today, I grew up not having. I grew up in a 1-bedroom apartment with a 5th floor apartment with an elevator that sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. There were homeless people in the laundry room, and every now and again, my mom had to get a man to come and kick the homeless people out. I grew up. Sometimes we had heat in the winter, sometimes we didn't. There were times I had to go to sleep, and my mom would have to put my coat on me for me to go to sleep. So I tell my story. It's not glamorous at all, but through hard work, through perseverance, through a lot of prayer, because my mom was a praying, faithful woman. I'm here, and so that's just how I speak.
Yeah, you have moved with those values. You've moved out into the world with them. I want to quote from your current pinned tweet, if I may. It's public, so you've got it out there. This is about your daughter. You have one daughter or more than one?
Just one.
Just one. My daughter is going to grow up to see Clarence Thomas as a hero, not George Floyd. She's going to read Thomas Sowell, not some BLM manifesto. She's going to learn from Booker T. Washington and Frederick Douglass, not Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson. She's going to be around people who have a victor mentality, not whining and complaining victims. She's going to respect cops and military and not become a whiny protester who needs something to be outraged about. Her skin color will be what she is, not who she is. She'll be everything liberalism doesn't want her to be. As her dad, I'll be so proud. What was the occasion, other than that you're a truth teller, and that's your truth? What was the occasion that elicited those words on that day? There must have been, was that a response to somebody who was, let me let the listener in. You're very often not seen as an authentic Black man. Your skin is black,
Yeah.
but you do not toe the line according to what you are supposed to be. Neither was Clarence Thomas. Famous, I'm going to share an anecdote, was part of my turning point, Zeke, in from the left, which I thought was the same as genuine liberalism. When he was nominated, Clarence Thomas was nominated to the Supreme Court by George Herbert Walker Bush, Bush 41. Derek Bell, the law professor of Harvard Law School, said on CNN, I can remember standing in front of the TV, and he said, well, I will tell you, Clarence Thomas doesn't belong on the Supreme Court. And he didn't say because of his judicial philosophy. He didn't say because of his lack of experience. He said, no, because Clarence Thomas doesn't think like a Black man. Now, I grew up, cutting my teeth politically on Martin Luther King's, let's have equal opportunity, content of character over color skin. So you know the rule. That's what got me into it. When I heard that day, I said, well, this is my team, then I'm not playing on this team anymore. So I've given you a lot here. You're not an authentic Black man. So what's that like? What's it like to get that? And it obviously rolls off your back, but it generates some interesting responses on your part.
No, I usually just ask them, then what is an authentic Black man? By your, am I falling under your definition of what a Black man is? Or can I just be my own person? I'm as Black as they come. My father's Black. My father's family is from Texas. My mom is Black. My mom's family's from North Carolina. My grandfather is Dominican, and wow, I'm drawing a blank here. He's Dominican, and he's from another island in the Caribbean. My great grandmother, if she were here right now, Anguilla, that's where she's from. Excuse me.
Okay.
My great grandmother with her West Indian accent, if she were here right now, she'd go upside my head. But no, my grandfather, he marched in the civil rights struggle. My family's from here. I'm as Black as they come. So if I'm not an authentic Black man, then how so? How am I not an authentic Black man? Why? Because I don't fall under your definition of how I should think, speak, and act. I always say that. I'm my own person. So if that makes me some sort of unauthentic Black person, then that's a you problem.
That's a you problem.
At the very least, do I get a note, that says, I'm not really a Black person, if my next job interview, do I have to hand it off to my prospective employer and go, I'm actually, what you see here is one thing, but I'm not like really a Black person here. I have a note, So my question, to me, that's the silliest, dumbest, stupidest thing ever. And I call them on it. I call each and every single one of them on it. You're gatekeeping. And most people who gatekeep really don't like when they themselves get gate kept. So I usually just try turning on them.
I'm often struck by the deep insights that white liberals have about people of color, Black people, with a deep, deep understanding of their psychology. I'm being totally ironic, of course. Uh, and as for, what not thinking like a Black man, obviously you understand the point that was being made was he doesn't think like a liberal. A Black man should think like a liberal Black man. He's not. He is an Uncle Tom. He's you know the whole shtick. And they particularly hated that he was raised by his grandparents with values very similar to yours, and um, that runs deeply against the grain in the current political climate.
Well, yeah, I mean, my thing is, you look at people like Clarence Thomas, you look at people like Ben Carson. Ben Carson is a celebrated, esteemed, high-level doctor who performed a surgery that was a 1 in a million shot. His story should be told all over the place. He grew up poor too. He grew up getting in trouble, and he made a decision one day and became a pediatric neurosurgeon. So his story should be told all over. But because he doesn't think, speak, and act the way they want him to, the gatekeeping liberals, because whether they're white, Black, Spanish, these are all gatekeepers. The gatekeeping liberals don't want him there. They're not going to tell his story because it doesn't mesh with their image of what a Black person should be. So Clarence Thomas, when he tells his story, it doesn't mesh with their image of what a Black person should be. My thing is, how racist is that? To me, that's the very definition of racism. I don't fit into your definition of what a Black person should be. So now it's open season. Clarence Thomas, after the Dobbs decision, they were calling him all sorts of N-words with a hard R at the end, and they were calling him all sorts of racial slurs, and they felt justified in doing so because he had left the plantation. He'd gone against the grain, so they felt very justified in being able to do this to him. I face the same thing on an almost daily basis, whether it's in my DMs, whether it's on a post somewhere. I get the exact same thing, and you know what? If you're that angry, then that means I'm doing something right, and that's how I'm going to raise my daughter. You grow up and you don't see yourself as a victim. You grow up and you don't idolize your skin color because it doesn't attribute to why you're great. You grow up and you read books by men and women who have something to say, because I only had so much space in the tweet, but I wanted to say women like Condoleezza Rice, women like Carol Swain. I want my daughter looking up to people like her, like them. So I'm going to raise my daughter to be someone who thinks, to be someone who's going to be a great person, to be someone who's going to succeed. And it's not going to be Black success. It's just going to be success. I had another tweet before that pinned tweet that pissed a lot of people off because I said, I'm not a Black dad. I'm just a dad. I'm not a Black husband. I'm just a husband. I'm not a Black cop. I'm not a Black this. I'm not a Black that. I don't have to put my race in front of everything. I'm a person just like you, just like everybody else. And when we attach race to everything, that's what pulls us all back. It doesn't have to be about, you don't have to precede everything with your race. To me, that's you're idolizing your skin color because you have nothing else to contribute in the world. It's like a good buddy of mine, Leonidas Johnson, says, of all the most positive things in my life that I list, my skin color is like 25th on the list. It's not something I wake up and the first thing I think is I'm Black. When I'm brushing my teeth in the morning, I'm not, I'm brushing my Black teeth. People who think that way are usually the most boring, most one-dimensional people you'll ever meet in your life. So I'm glad I've transcended that. I'm glad I've moved beyond that. And like I said, that's just what I'll be teaching my daughter.
Look, I like where we're going with this, and we're going to come back. We got to take a break to be with our sponsor, to hear with our sponsors right now, but we'll be right back after this.
Looks like you've been sleeping well.
Megan, he's back.
The My Pillow guy.
And you're looking good.
Still feeling good.
Well, just when you thought it couldn't get any better, we've got the best pillow ever, My Pillow 2.0.
Wow, it's so soft and smooth.
It's cool to the touch. How did you do that?
Well, we took My Pillow's patented fill and combined it with this new technology that we didn't have back then when I invented My Pillow to bring you the best pillow in history, My Pillow 2.0. Just like all of you, I never imagined that My Pillow could get any better. That's why I haven't changed it in nearly 20 years. Then I heard about a revolutionary new technology, and I knew I had to bring it to you all. My Pillow 2.0 is truly the next generation of My Pillow.
The My Pillow 2.0 is cooler and softer than the last My Pillow. It is so comfortable to sleep on at night. I look forward to going to bed, and I wake up well rested in the morning.
Sleep is all about temperature and height. My Pillow 2.0's patented adjustable fill is going to give you the exact individual support you need from your head to your bed. And now here's where it gets even better. We've all experienced those temperature-related sleep interruptions where you get too hot, you toss and turn, you flip your pillow over to the cool side. Well, all that's gone with my brand new My Pillow 2.0 cooling fabric that's made with temperature-regulating thread.
The best sleep just got even better. Whether you have a My Pillow or not, you need to get the brand new My Pillow 2.0. Call or go to mypillow.com now. Use your promo code, and for a limited time when you buy one, you'll get a second one absolutely free.
You're sleeping even better.
And cooler, too.
And you're looking good.
Feeling good.
I knew you would.
Visit mypillow.com.
That's right. Make sure to go to mypillow.com or mystore.com and use promo code GG21. You can get a discount of up to 60% off on all the amazing products. You will be helping both Mike Lindell and the Glazov Gang. And if you like one-of-a-kind handmade art, make sure to go to lutfstudio.com. lutfstudio.com and purchase resin art pieces made by our very own producer, Annie Cyrus. Use promo code GLAZOV to get special discounts. You will be helping both Annie and this program. So Zeek, we're talking race. You say you're more than race. Amen to that. If I say that I don't think about race, what I get told is, well, you have a privilege not to think about race because you're a white person. If you say you don't think you're about race, well, you have a lot of black shame apparently. So we know where that goes and what it's done. I do though want to talk about. I'm going to get your views on some current stuff. Some poll indications, surveys about the 2024 presidential race. There are some pretty solid indications that there could be a significant breakaway of black male voters for Trump. And at the same time, there's a polarization that seems to be the case. I'm not a demographer and I'm not a pollster. I'm quoting what I read in the press. And that is that the female black community is going way the other direction. And I came across something on X today. I don't know who said it. It was a tongue-in-cheek, somewhat sardonic comment by a black male who has a similar viewpoint as that I think we're expressing here today. And the comment was, oh boy, the black matriarchy is going to have their work cut out to get the black men back in line. So help me understand what you think might be going on in that. Does that resonate for you? What is the black matriarchy? There was an implication that this might be a bitter dimension of the black female community rather than, your mother was a matriarch, right? She had strong values. But this implication was an angry, entitled black female contingent is going to work hard, especially hard, because the black men are slipping out of the identity that they're supposed to have. Does that resonate at all? Are you picking up anything along these lines yourself?
Oh, absolutely. I'm not, I tell everybody, hey, listen, in 2008, I proudly voted for Obama. His 2004 speech at the DNC is probably the best speech I've ever heard. Back in 2004, I wasn't even political like that. I just happened to turn it on, and I'm seeing a speech by this community organizer from Chicago who pulled me in with his speech. And that, I was talking about that speech for weeks afterwards. I said, this guy, whoever he is, I'm in. I'm all in. So when he ran in 2008, I proudly voted for him. I was Team Obama from day one. It was the start of me really disliking Hillary from the way she attacked him, the way she did during that entire primary. And I was Team Obama from day one.
Also famously said during, or not, if not in that campaign prior to it, that the black male predators need to be brought to heel.
No, yeah.
So, I mean, come on. I don't know where that comes from. You don't have, those are not enlightened words, but they came back to her in a way she didn't expect.
Well, again, she quote unquote misspoke. Democrats, usually when they say something racist, they get called on it, they get checked on it really hard. Oh, no, I misspoke. Kathy Hochul did the same thing when she said that black kids in the Bronx don't know what a computer is. And then when she got called really hard on it, oh, no, I misspoke. No, you didn't misspeak. you said what you said, So Hillary said the same thing. I misspoke. But so back in 2008, Obama had a bona fide energy around him. Basically, if you were black and you weren't voting for Obama, there was something very wrong with you. Nowadays with Kamala Harris, I'm not seeing that same energy. I'm not seeing that same, you have to vote for her because she's a black woman and we got to put her in office. I'm not seeing that same energy. And I think black men in particular are starting to wake up. They're starting to see that the Democrats are lying to them year after year after year. They're starting to see that the Democrats only like them every 2 to 4 years. They only want to reach out to the black community as a whole every 2 to 4 years. When they need you, all of a sudden they're friends with you. And then all of a sudden, right after they get your votes and after they're elected, they want nothing to do with you. Kamala Harris right now is telling everyone, oh, I'm black, because that's the bigger demographic they're going for. But it's not resonating the same. And I shared a post on my Instagram where I said, remember she had a dinner party and she invited all the senators, all the sitting senators, and she was the only dark-skinned person or brown-skinned person in a room full of white women, and the only people that were there of color were the help. I said, this is how she feels. She could have easily looked around and said, you know what, in the spirit of diversity, because that's what Democrats are all about, diversity, equity, and inclusion. Maybe I can invite a couple of Hispanic representatives, congresswomen, or maybe I can invite a couple of black congresswomen, because that's diversity, equity, and inclusion. I mean, listen, me personally, I don't care who she invites to a party. There's been plenty of parties where I've shown up and I've been the only black person there. I don't care. But by her rules, she should have known better. This is what she's been saying. I'm not putting these words in her mouth. She's the one that says that you should look around the room and include more people. So I said, at the end of my video, I said, listen, she wants your votes, but quite literally, you ain't invited to the party. And I think that's been the message that a lot of people in the black community have been getting. They want your votes, but you ain't invited to the party. And I think a lot of black men really are waking up and wanting something different, especially in the days of BLM, where they basically told black men, you can show up, but you got to be in the background, especially with this rabid feminism that's going on with the left and the Democrat Party. Men are they're just beating you down. And if you're not a docile, subservient man, it's almost like, they now all of a sudden it's, you're toxic. This is toxic masculinity. You're mansplaining to me. You're this, you're that. And I think a lot of black men are really just tired of being spoken at and just being taken for granted. And hopefully black women aren't far behind. I've been saying that for a while. If black folk are going to get anywhere politically, you got to learn how to diversify your vote. You got to learn how to say, you know what, I'm going to hear what you have to say, but maybe I should hear what they have to say as well. And I've gone after the Republicans as well and said, hey, listen, they're not going to get the message with you standing behind a closed and locked door. You're going to have to leave your comfort zone and get out there, because you got people who are willing to listen, but you have to get out there and bring that message to them. So I think there's a lot more waking up that has to be done. I think there's a lot more realization that has to be done, but hopefully it's happening.
You know, you mentioned Obama. I share a story with you. A friend of mine in Dallas the other night said he was cleaning up the kitchen. It was his time to clean up the kitchen. His wife was doing something else in the house. So he's cleaning the dishes. He had his ear pods in and he was listening to Obama. But he didn't know that it was the 2004 Obama, that they were replaying it. So he said, he told a group of us, he said, I have to say, I thought Obama had a kind of rebirth. I was struck by his conciliatory spirit. And by he's saying, I'm not here to make you feel guilty the way Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton did. Barack was very wise, very smart, strategic, playing very cleverly. So I'm not going to hold you guilty anymore, white America. If you just give me a chance, we're not going to do this by color anymore. So anyway, then my friend went to turn on the TV and found the real Barack Obama, who seems to have lost weight. His eyes look angrier than ever. And that speech, apart from the content of it, well, maybe not from the substance of it, the energy of that speech was bitter and vitriolic. Then you turn on the TV. You don't have to have 100% approval rating of Donald Trump, but there's a vitality, a humor, a warmth. So in any case, that distinction, my friend thought he was listening to Barack Obama today. And when he compared the two speeches, he saw a life not being, let us say, a life not apparently flourishing.
Well, I've said it over and over again. I wish we had gotten the 2004 Obama as president, because whatever happened within those 4 years, that's not the same person who gave that speech at the DNC. The person we got as president was divisive. The person we got was angry. The person we got was judgmental. The person we got made decisions without knowing all the facts. The first, I guess, sort of chinks in the armor with Obama that I noticed was during the whole Cambridge police officer incident between
Yes.
him and the professor, where he said the cop acted stupidly and he excoriated the cop badly, but then admitted he didn't know what happened. He heard the story from someone who probably heard the story from someone else, and he made a snap judgment. He wasn't trying to unite anyone. He was out there taking sides. And then he tried to have his whole, we're all going to get together and have a beer kind of thing. But the damage was done. And then during Trayvon Martin, where he took sides, it wasn't about unity. It wasn't about, hey, listen, let's just let the process, make its way. He took sides. During BLM, he took sides. He invited BLM to the White House. He invited Al Sharpton to the White House. So this is a guy who really took sides, and he's hanging out with hate mongers. BLM, hate mongers. Al Sharpton, hate mongers. He's hanging out with them. He's buddying up with them, to the point Al Sharpton is like, I got clout in the White House, So this is someone who picked sides, and he picked sides against the people who are directly trying to divide the country. BLM has done nothing to repair or help race relations. As a matter of fact, they want race relations to get worse so that they can continue to get money. Same thing with Al Sharpton. He thrives off of racism. Racism is a good business for him. And it just, I say over and over again, that quote by Booker T. Washington, where he said there's a certain class of Negro who profits off of racism, and they're going to keep putting the problems of the Black person to the forefront so that they can put themselves in the forefront. I mean, I'm paraphrasing at this point, but, so that they can profit off of racism. They can put themselves at the forefront. They can put themselves front and center. Al Sharpton, whenever something happens, he makes sure that he is front and center. He makes sure that he is speaking, and he's got the longest speech out there. He makes sure that when they're marching, that he is right in the middle where the cameras are focused right on him. No matter who got shot, no matter whose mama's there, whose grandmama's there, whose uncle, whoever, he makes sure he is right there front and center. During the press conference, he's right there. Same thing with Ben Crump. Same thing with Jesse Jackson, although you don't see Jesse Jackson so much nowadays. But all of them, he makes sure that he is right there, front and center. BLM, make sure that they are right there, front and center. It's been very profitable for them. The BLM founder who went and bought herself a bunch of mansions, and then said that that's her way of helping out Black folk, because she's Black. So, that counts somewhere in there. they're not even trying to hide it. But you have all these corporations who, quote unquote, want to be on the right side of history. So they're going to keep donating money. They're going to keep putting themselves out there. And in return, they want to be able to say, we donated to BLM. We're on the right side of history. No, you're not, because you're on the side of hate. So Obama was one of these people who buddied up with all of them. And nowadays, he wants to tell you about how you have to give up a piece of your pie. Meanwhile, he's got 3 or 4 mansions in very well-to-do neighborhoods. His daughters are already millionaires from a trust fund. Him and Michelle are already multi-millionaires. He's hanging out with Oprah, who's a billionaire, and she doesn't have to give up any of her slice of the pie. So he's going to lecture you about how you have to give up stuff, but he's sitting pretty. So, this is a very different person than who gave that speech at the 2004 DNC. And now I've lost all respect for the man. So, I say I voted for Obama, but I put it in a way where I made a heavy mistake.
Well, that's how we learn. Second thoughts. I'm as you're talking about this shift that happened with the civil rights movement, Shelby Steele, you're probably familiar with his work, his marvelous book, White Guilt. I've never met Dr. Steele. I hope to have a chance to talk with him sometime. He makes a point that once the Civil Rights Act of 64 and the Housing Rights Act of 65 got passed, what that amounted to was America saying, we blew it. We got it wrong. We didn't live up to our founding documents, but our founding documents are built with provisos that we can make it right and we can still move on. And Steele talks in his book, White Guilt, about how the civil rights establishment, not the average Black man or woman on the street, the civil rights establishment put their hand to the air and said, did we just hear you say, America, that you lost your moral authority? Are we hearing you say that you held us to our responsibilities, but denied us of our rights? Oh, we're going to have to work something out. So here's how it's going to come down. And Dr. Steele says it much more articulately and elegantly, but he says essentially there was a sort of a new understanding that white America could escape the stigma of collective white guilt, which, by the way, I'm not collectively guilty about anything racial. I'm an individual. You are an individual. We've let go of group identity, but not as much as we should, because we see group identity resurging its ugly face. But in any case, he pointed out in that book that what happened was the Black established civil rights, the civil rights establishment, primarily Black, simply said, we will now demand that America make the equivalent of reparations. And so the deal was, I get to feel relieved of my alleged white guilt and my complicity if we go along with this program of entitlement. So a kind of, you know how it's turned out, a kind of reverse racism and a reverse color consciousness. So Jim Crow didn't go away. Jim Crow just changed the players. That's what Shelby Steele argues. And it gave me much insight into, first of all, to Barack Obama's success in playing on it. I won't hold you guilty, but of course he really did. He did hold America hostage around racial issues.
Well, Thomas Sowell, who I'm a huge fan of, I hope to, if I, how they always have those things, if you could have dinner with one person, who would it be? I would, Thomas Sowell is right there at the top of my list. I would love to just sit and just listen to him talk and just take in all that wisdom and all that knowledge. It's like talking to my granddad. But Thomas Sowell, he's someone who I've always admired ever since I started this journey. But he says in his book, Discrimination and Disparities, he looks at the history of what was going on during the time of civil rights. And he looks at what was going on as far as affirmative action. And he said companies were hiring Black folks because they realized that they could get Black folks to work for them for cheaper than everybody else. So they were hiring Black folks. And once affirmative action was passed and companies said, oh, okay, I only have to hire 12%, you can see the number where it was rising, drop down to exactly 12%. He says the same thing with other things that were going on, how racism was failing businesses because businesses who were hiring Black folks and could, afford to drop their prices, or hotels who would let Black folks stay, at the hotel, those hotels were thriving, while the hotels that said we're not going to allow Black folks to stay here were going out of business. So basic business was taking care of racism. Basic capitalism was taking care of racism. But now the government got involved and said, you must do this, and you have to have this quota, and you have to. So now you have businesses who are like, okay, well, now that there's a number attached to it, that's where I'm going to be. So it actually did, the Civil Rights Acts did actually a lot more to hurt Black folks, to hurt Black families, to hurt progress that was going on in Black communities. You can see, if you look at the numbers, the raw numbers, you can see how numbers were going up, and then the Civil Rights Act was passed, and then the numbers started going back down. Basically, the government now became the daddy, and as long as there wasn't a father in the house, you could have all these government subsidies, and that's what started to destroy, and has led to where we are today, the Black family. So Thomas Sowell lays it out so elegantly, and I'm a huge fan of his work. But people don't like facts; they like feelings. They like the feel good moment. That's why I'm not seen as an authentic Black man, because I happily disrupt that narrative. I say, hey, listen, I grew up the way I grew up, and I still made it. I own my own house. My wife and I, we own our own cars. We're paying our mortgage every month. We're paying our utilities. I have a job where I make a good amount of money. My wife has a job where she makes a good amount of money. We're here, and my wife isn't Black, but we made it. We're here. We made it, and I'm seeing. Well, the only reason you made it was because, when you talk to people about your success, I find that a lot of there's going to be one of two ways they receive it. They either take that and it motivates them. Like when I used to do a lot of Big Brother programs and mentoring programs, I would talk to kids and I would say, hey, listen, you can do X, Y, and Z. I want you to start reading books. I want you to just educate yourself as much as you can. I want you, I'll buy you your SAT prep books, but you have to promise me that you're going to go through those books, and you're going to read these books, and you're going to practice so you can get a good score in the SATs, so that you can get into a good college, and you can start living your life. Me personally, I don't feel you have to go to college. You can go to a trade school, but if you're going to go the route of going to college, use that degree to really get yourself somewhere. And I would talk to kids like that. I'll buy you your SAT prep book, or I'll buy you your book so that you can go become an electrician, or I'll buy you whatever manual they have so that you can go become a carpenter, whatever it is. And I would have a lot of kids who would say, you know what, Mr. Arkham, if you're going to do that for me, I'll do it for you. And I had a pretty good success rate. That's one of the things I'm most proud of. But then you also had kids where I would tell them, hey, listen, I'll buy these books for you. And they'll say, but even if I do this, this is going to happen. And even if I study, and even if I get a high grade, this is going to happen. And I would tell these kids flat out, then I'm not wasting my time with you, because you're already coming up with excuses as to why you failed. You haven't even taken the test yet. You're coming up with an excuse as to why you failed. I'm not going to convince you that you can be a victor if you are already dead set on being a victim. So, you have that sort of mentality. And like I said, I'm just, I would love to do, I would love to see more outreach from the Republicans. I would love for more people to get involved. I would love for Big Brother programs to really just take off for everyone, for Black kids, white kids, Hispanic kids, everyone. I would love to see these programs really just take off. But the mentality has to change. And that's how we win this country. We got to, Obama wanted to win the hearts and minds of terrorists. I don't want to win the hearts and minds of terrorists. I want to win the hearts and minds of kids right here in the United States. So we've got to work on changing the mentality, and we've got to work on just doing better.
Well, Zeke, when this interview goes out, the Democratic Convention will be a past event. The free abortion and free vasectomy trucks. We don't even have time. I didn't know there was enough testosterone in the room for a vasectomy to be needed at the Democratic Convention this year, but I'll let that one pass too. What do you think now that the dust has settled? What does this ticket go forth with? Did the Democrats succeed in doing what they needed to do to speak to America right now?
The only issues they can speak on right now between Harris and Walz are abortion and she's not Trump. That's it. They don't have any other platforms. They quite literally, that's why she can't debate. Because once that's out the way, okay, you know, we're not going to do a national abortion ban, and there's nothing you can do in office that's gonna affect it one way or another. We have a system of checks and balances in this country, and the Supreme Court already ruled on it. So that's it. That's it. As far as her not being Trump, well, yeah, that's a good thing because she was the border czar and failed at that. This is a woman who has managed to fail up her entire legal career. You know, she had her incident with Willie Brown, and he put her where he needed her to be. When she became a senator, basically she ran unopposed, but she had a low approval rate as a senator. You know, so there was no one real who ran against her, and that's the only reason why she was a senator. All of a sudden, she's hyping up her black side, and Joe Biden, who flat out said, "My only requirement for a vice president is I'm picking a black woman." That's it. It wasn't about picking the best person. It wasn't about someone with a lot of accomplishments and who has done this and done that and would make a good running mate. His only requirement was she's a black woman. So he picks this quote unquote black woman, because I still want to see the ancestry DNA test. He picks this quote unquote black woman who couldn't even get a single delegate in her own state to vote for her. He picks her. So she's failed up her entire career. And now, because Biden did so poorly at the first debate, she's failed up into being a presidential candidate. So, I mean, this is not someone you want to pattern your life after. This is not someone you want to look up to, because she has managed to fail up. It's like a superpower. She fails and somehow succeeds from it, so this is not someone you want to just look up to. But I think that the Democrats are going to continue to hide her because she, I'm not going to watch her speech tonight. I'll watch the highlights of it tomorrow morning, but I can guarantee you her speech is just going to be a mishmash of DEI and I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And there's probably a bunch of lies about Trump because they have to lie about him. It's probably just going to be a whole lot of all this bad stuff that happened during the past 4 years. I didn't do, but whatever good came of it, yeah, that was me. I did that. And I hope and pray America does not take the bait. I hope and pray that the Republicans wake up and they start putting their own systems in place to say, hey, listen, what happened in 2020 is not going to happen this year. And I hope America just does not fall for it. I cringe at what the next 4 years could hold for this country with Kamala Harris in charge. So like I said, I cringe and I hope and pray that this country wakes up.
Well, you closed on a beautiful note. I'm going to bring it back around to what you wrote about your daughter, that you wanted to succeed based on her strengths, on her potential, on her achievements, and on her commitment to excellence, not the rest of the 9 yards. Zeek, we're out of time. Thank you so much for spending this hour, just about an hour, with me, and I look forward to maybe having an opportunity to talk again.
Thank you. I really appreciate you having me on. Thank you.
And thanks to viewers of the Glazov Gang. It's been great to sit in tonight for Jamie. Have a great week.